Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope you're doing well. I noticed something as I read feminist literature, and a lot of it is the romanticization of female adultery and fornication without any of the actual trauma that it causes. Now, the sort of men versus women angle that a lot of feminists go through is interesting because you can see the feminist clearly hates marriage and hates female purity. And I'm going to give you an example. So pay attention. They will romanticize cheating, right? How wrong it is. Oh, it's so wrong. But the way the woman writes it, you can see that like she's justifying it, right? Another example would be how the women are jumping over hoops to defend Cardi B cheating while 8 months pregnant on her husband or her boyfriend or whatever he is. Offset is his name because he cheats, right? So that type of disgustingness is something that they will jump hoops for, romanticizing it. Now, as I've been reading Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, I've become pretty disgusted. I'll do a whole series on this book because it's definitely cryptic, feminist, woke trash. It attacks the Christians, number one, but I have noticed as I read it, there's angles in there that could apply to Islam as well, especially how it shames modesty. And so, long story short, as I was reading it, there's a part where the main character admits that she was a mistress for a married man, right? And then later he leaves his wife and then marries her. But now she's a handmaid. And so what I noticed in that text was how they romanticized, the author romanticized adultery. And how like it's so soft when a woman cheats. Now, the thing that's horrible is that a lot of women who do cheat with married men, they don't give a damn about the woman that they're hurting. But then at the same turn of the mouth with their split tongues, they'll call all men pigs. So the feminists will say you should never shame women who tempt other women's husbands. They should be able to dress as sensual as they want. They should be able to do adult entertainment. They should be able to loiter and sell themselves on the street corners and in the brothels. And the men should have unlimited access to free adult content. And that you cannot shame women for producing such material. The only one who gets to be shamed is the man when he cheats. Totally ignoring all the traps women have placed around the men. They are circling. Imagine a man he's standing there, and then these women are just surrounding him. It's a circle of nudity, and he's married. And then as soon as he glances like he's not supposed to, they'll be like, "You shouldn't have looked. You shouldn't have lowered your gaze," taking no accountability. They all pile onto him and call him names and such, shaming him for his heterosexuality while they tempt him. And then when a better woman who's modest comes along and says, all of you should be covered and your body is a sensual, it's a sensual creation, no matter which way you square it. Now, if you're morbidly obese, you become a fetish. If you're anorexic, you become a fetish. But if you're proportioned in a very geometrically pleasable way, well, then a heterosexual male is going to look at you and think something. And that's how the human species continues. And so it's not unreasonable to say you should be modest and we should reduce the sexual tension and energy in society to help preserve marriages and to help men focus on things other than the flesh. But the weird part is women, the feminists will say, a woman's body is not inherently sexual. Well, then why are you so afraid to cover it up? Because they deep down know that their sensuality is what gives them power. Once you tell an occultic woman to cover, Now she admits that you were right all along, that the body does have power. So does the body have the ability to affect men, yes or no? And they will say, like, no, the woman's body is not something sexual. And you're like, okay. So the women will jump through hoops to say the female form isn't something that stimulates men, but men will say, no, that's the whole point of an erection. There's the unhealthy ways, and then there's the permissible ways, right? Where men see the female form and get a feeling, right? And I'm not talking about weirdos who see the shape of a chair or watermelons and they get a hard-on. I'm talking about it is normal for men to see the female form and be disturbed hormonally by it, right? To get a sort of feeling. And so to reduce that, modesty helps to eliminate some of that problem making, right? Because if you think about the gaze, what is the gaze? Women's gaze, male gaze, a tiger's gazing at you in the woods, you know, a hawk is gazing at some rodent. Vision, gazes, what it does, okay? When you're spotted, when you're not seen, when you're overlooked, when you're focused on. Just the human eye in general, and eyes, their functions, both symbolically, allegorically, metaphorically, and physically. What the eyes are, the sort of conduit of interactions. How you can speak to someone with your eyes without even talking. And so, the way you dress is the way you wish to be addressed, and it shows a lot about your personality. Feminists will say how you dress doesn't reflect anything about your moral standards. There are chameleons who can be wolves in sheep clothing, no doubt, but to pretend that the clothes you choose to adorn yourself with don't reflect some type of angle of your psyche is just dishonest, because clothing is a self-expression. And so you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't say, because their argument against modest clothing, it takes away their personhood and individuality. And then when they use that individuality to reflect a sort of lewdness, they say you can't judge them for it. But you can, because they chose to wear that free of their own will. And they know what kind of attention they're trying to garner with such selections of clothing. Now, there will be men who will behave in a manner that is good or bad regardless of clothes, but we cannot pretend that clothes don't have an impact. Even when you go to a job interview, you wear your best clothes because you hope it'll make you look more professional. The entire fashion industry, it was built in order to sell an image. Marketing sells an image. Movies, they sell an image. Costume designers selling an image. How you dress, you are promoting an image. And that image is what's going to be the sign. It tells people how to interact with you. There's basic respect, and then there's deeper levels. How someone speaks to a military commander versus a janitor versus, someone at the post office. The uniform dictates the function, dictates what kind of decorums are expected, and which ones should be avoided, and whatnot. And so, when women romanticize adultery, they promote lewdness. They are perfectly fine with being the one to make a husband break his vows, as long as they get their fix. But then they turn around and black pill, they call it. They give the cyanide perspective, cynical cyanide perspective, to women who want to be housewives, and they pump them full of fear. Oh, he'll cheat on you, he'll leave you, he'll abandon you. Well, who's tempting the men? Women with very loose morals. So, they are the problem. Not only do those lewd women who are very open and permit many people to mount them, not only do they promote that in society, but they scare women and shame them for wanting to be a wife. How do they do this? How do they shame them to be wives? Like, to not be wives? Because they say you'll be limited to one guy. He'll be out there getting his delights well, you won't, and you should be able to, and you should have your cake and eat it too, just go behind his back, is what they'll say. And or they'll tell you to pile on the experiences beforehand. Now, some men want that, but some men don't. And yes, there's the hypocrisy there, where men will shame those women but then be with them, right? So they'll share their bodies with those lewd women, but they won't marry them, but then they cheat on their wives with those same women who they said they hated. So the benefit of marriage doesn't really do much for the woman, because she chose to accept a man who has been passed around, and when they get married, he doesn't stop that behavior but continues that behavior anyways. She just gets to live in the house and sample him while he's still out there slanging it to other women. So you can see the conundrum of how men do hold some responsibility of how the feminists are able to really cause a division within marriage and to separate men from their wives and to also promote adultery. Red pillars and feminists both work really hard to make it easy for men to cheat on their wives by enabling it, by promoting promiscuous behavior, by promoting hookup culture, adult entertainment, you name it. So the girl who wants to be good, she has a very hard road to face. And so it's important for people to remember, women who do commit adultery with zero shame should be shamed. They may not have shamed, but that doesn't mean you should make excuses. They should repent and feel sorry for what they did, and it wasn't right. And if someone says like, oh, this man did that, you shouldn't forgive him for cheating, this and that, you should say, do these same type of women, because they have some self-respect and leave him, but do they tell the woman who's cheating on her husband to have self-respect? Do they say, hey, that was really a grotesque thing that you did, you really shouldn't have done it? See, the sisterhood isn't really real, and once women wake up to that, the feminists lose a lot of their power, because the feminists make you think there's a sisterhood. That you will be able to rely on your fellow women folk to bail you out or have something like that. It's just not the case. Because they promote lewdness in society, which destroys the nuclear family. Okay? For example, there was a woman on the PBD podcast who was wearing a cross with red nail polish, and she claims to be a Christian, and she's the CEO of an adult entertainment website. Look at that. She's wearing a cross, mocking every Christian, mocking the Bible, mocking God, mocking everything sanctified to Christians by working for and promoting an industry that ruins lives, that dooms people to hell, and destroys and annihilates marriages. And she will say to herself that she's helping women to be more free, that she's bringing good into the world. Meanwhile, she is helping men to harm their wives, to become perverts and degenerates. A lot of women hurt other women, but the feminist never focuses on the wrongs of women. Rather, they finger point and scapegoat men for anything and everything. Recall that I saw someone did a video where, I think it was in Atlanta, it was either Atlanta or Los Angeles, women were selling themselves on the street, and a woman wrote on the bottom, women have to do this because boomers ruined the economy. And it's just like, are you kidding me? You can't go get a job at McDonald's, you can't do DoorDash, you can't do Uber, you can't be a bus driver, work at the post office, you had to sell yourself on the corner? No, you want fast, easy money, and you don't want to be shamed for it, but what you're doing is shameful. Spreading diseases, and risking your life, and promoting sin. Abhorrent behavior. But a lot of times, women who find themselves in the occultic feminist camp, they help men to hurt their wives. A feminist is not a friend to a religious woman. She's an enemy because she promotes women to put their kids in a daycare, to think that being at a soulless, dead-end job is going to provide her more fulfillment. They resent staying home with children. They don't value memories made with the children. They don't see children as special and being worthy of protection. They don't value motherhood because to them it's a punishment to be a stay-at-home mom. They don't see it as being liberated from the workforce. They see it as a punishment. They call the kitchen a prison, and then tell you to go eat fast food or go eat food from a gas station instead of having a home-cooked organic meal. So they shame everything that is good while making you think that they care about your well-being. If you don't go in debt to a college, they see you as worthless. And so they say it's all about choice, but it's not about choice, because they help to destroy the success of stay-at-home moms because they promote women selling themselves online and in the streets, and they promote women to be immodest, and they romanticize female adultery while turning around and scaring girls from getting married, saying men will cheat on you. Well, who are they going to cheat on you with? They never say your husband will cheat on you with a gay man. They always know deep down that it'll always, on average at least, be with another woman. But you're not allowed to shame that adulterous mistress. But then, on the flip side, while they romanticize adultery for women, they shame polygamous women as backward, brainwashed sister wives. So they'll accept a prostitute, but they won't accept a wife. So you have the feminist as the enemy of women. They would prefer you to be a prostitute than a second, third, or fourth wife, and yet you think that they want the best for you. They don't. They are deeply depraved individuals who are resentful towards men and haven't practiced forgiveness. Haven't practiced forgiveness, and they resent who men are and how their biology is, while at the same time romanticizing adultery. It's really quite bizarre. So it's very important for us women to remember that women who are proud adulteresses, they are not your friends and they can't be trusted. It's different if someone's very loathsome and they really are burdened by their actions. But a woman who's proud of it and unabashed, dresses lewdly, and openly talks about her debauchery, that's a snake in the grass, and you have no sisterhood with those women. Our duty is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and adultery is disgusting for both men and women, but women make it easy now, more than ever, for men to cheat on their wives and ruin their families. But they only blame the men. Tell the men to do this, tell the men to do that. But they get really angry when women hold other women accountable and say, maybe you shouldn't wear that mini skirt or that halter top. Maybe you shouldn't go get drunk and then be alone in the car with someone's husband. Stuff like that. They will only ever blame the men. Only. Instead of thinking, hey, these men, they're trying their best to be loyal, but the women keep tempting them. No, they don't care about that. And then when men say they want to have relations with their wife, the feminists will say, you're not a sex machine, you're not a sex object. And then they will discourage you from having relations with your husbands, which will push them into the hands of the hookers, escorts, you name it, and onto these websites. So the feminist brainwashes the housewife to neglect her duty towards her husband concerning intimacy, which pushes him into the arms of the adult entertainment people, which is also supported by the feminists. The feminists promotes adult content. Now there are some who don't, and they're more communistic and Marxist. But they're more of a minority. modern American libertine progressive feminists, the Wokians, they fully support adult content. And if you try to put laws to ban those websites and to put such people in jail, they won't allow it. And so they want it to be easier for your husband to catch a disease and bring it home to you. And they want to make it harder for your marriage to succeed because they want to help women to tempt him. And so it's a very sad thing. And then they shame Islamic modesty because they realize if men start realizing that their wife being modest shows a sign of respect, well, then a lot of the occultic women lose their power. Because when men think that their woman being lewd benefits them instead of benefiting the next guy who's waiting in line, then things, would change. Because a lot of men have been tricked into thinking the more lewd your wife dresses shows the more power you have, when in reality it shows that she's advertising herself as ever ready for someone else who can be better than you, and that she's not concerned with anything about religious marriage vows or nothing like that. She's ever a walking billboard open 24 hours. She wants to be in the scope of the next guy. She wants that door to never be closed. Modesty closes the door more than someone who dresses lewd. And a feminist knows this, but it's like a secret code they don't want you to talk about. So I just find it disturbing how time and time again you'll see female adultery romanticized while ignoring the victim, which is also another woman. Another trend you should notice, because that'll help us to dismantle feminism, an ideology that is backwards, that has not served to make homes happier. It has not made men and women love each other, and it has caused more delusional, wicked women to get in positions of power, of influence, to further distort our society and to lead us more astray. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and protect us and help to rid the world of such a philosophy, because how destructive it is. Take care.